I mean, just you couldn't ask for a better true opening track than Pax Might, Blood and Might. Effects of Being is another one of my favorites. Just a strong melodic chorus, excellent riffs, great solo guitar work. You mentioned of Infinity and the guitar solo there. I thought it was just killer.
Yeah.
I mean,
that track, and that's what I was talking about. That's the kind of track that goes from, okay, it's a pretty good song, to the solo kicks in, and you're like, by the end of the song, you're going, dude, that song kicks ass, you know?
Right. Great keys on that, as is with the whole CD, really. And you know me, I'm a sucker for good keyboards. But they're there. They're not overly done. They're not in the way. But they're there. They're there as a good supplement to the other sounds and mixes on the CD. But it's an excellent opening to the track, and then by the time you get to the end with that killer guitar solo, man, it just pulls you in. Just pulls you in. So I'm very disappointed that I hadn't heard their first 3 CDs before this. Now I'll be going back and enjoying them. So I'm really, really thrilled with this CD.
So what'd you give it, Biv? What's your overall score?
Believe it or not, I gave it a 9 out of 10.
That's exactly what I gave it. 9 out of 10. Solid album. And if you're a power metal fan, if you're a folk metal fan, and even if I've always found, this is just my opinion, I've always found Iced Earth being called power metal to be a real stretch there. But, I hear a lot of Iced Earth in these guys, too. So if you're a power metal fan, a folk metal fan, or just a flat-out old school, Dark Saga, Something Wicked This Way Comes era Iced Earth fan, you're going to really, really dig Winterstorm. But yeah, 9 out of 10 from me, 9 out of 10 from Biv. If that's the kind of music you're into, check out Winterstorm's newest one, Cube of Infinity. Great album.
When I'm here, when I close my eyes, it lets me fly away. When I fear, when I close my eyes, I'm burning inside. Lost in the shadows, I realize my fool's.
Like we said earlier in the program, we have 4 reviews, but if you really think about it, it's more like 3.5, because what you just heard was off of Hibria's newest EP, that was Fool's Paradise. And Hibria, of course, has a 20th anniversary EP they just released. Not a full album, but Biv is a huge Hibria fan. So on this album, you got 3 new songs, or 3 originals, if you will, and then, of course, you have some live stuff later on in the EP. Really good stuff. I got my thoughts and opinions, but Biv is by far and away the bigger Hibria fan of the two. So, Biv, what did you think of it, man?
Well, first of all, the very first track, Leading Lady, starts off with this Jimi Hendrix-esque guitar piece that made me think, are we getting into covers? Is that what we're doing here? But once that intro kicks over, it rolls into the typical Hibria type, strong chorus, good beat, good guitar work. I won't say that the song itself was anything special. Now, that intro piece, very, very nice. The second track, Music, and normally I don't go through track by track, but since it's only 7, and the CD is broken up into 2 halves, and I'll explain what I mean in a minute, I'm kind of going to go track by track on this. Music is a very average tune, nothing special. It's a good message about how music brings, people together from all walks of life, like we've talked about on the show.
Sure.
You're a metalhead, I'm a metalhead, we're friends, just like that. But the song itself is pretty average. I mean, nothing really to write home about. The third song, also an original, as far as I can tell anyway, Fool's Paradise, has a fantastic opening riff, which you just heard part of. To me, it's very Metal Church. The chorus is a great power chorus, soaring guitar solo, and by far the best song on the CD. Then all of a sudden we kick into 4 live tracks. Now, 3 of the 4 did not appear on Blinded by Tokyo, which was their other live CD that came out in 2013. Those being Silent Revenge, Lonely Fight, and Tightrope. All came out after Blinded by Tokyo, which would explain why they would put out a live version of those. Tiger Punch, however, which is apparently their most popular song that they just have to put on every album they do was not only on, the original Skull Collector CD, but then it was on Blinded by Tokyo, which I understand was a DVD, not a CD, but nonetheless. And now, of course, here we are putting it on 20. So, of the 4 tracks, Silent Revenge and Lonely Fight were the first 2 tracks off of Silent Revenge. Very good tracks. These are good live tracks, not great. Tightrope is good as well. And then Tiger Punch, I just think they have 30 songs that are better than Tiger Punch. I don't know why this song is such a favorite. I really don't. Overall, it's a good CD. It's not a great CD. If you're a Hibria fan, you're going to want it in your collection. If you're not a Hibria fan, it probably isn't going to draw you in, maybe outside of the song Fool's Paradise. Because of that, I'm giving it a very average 6 out of 10.
Well, it's funny you say that. A couple more thoughts. Again, self-admitted not a huge Hibria fan, and not because I don't like them. I just never really got into them as much as I probably should, because what I found interesting to me, and maybe obviously you didn't pick this up, but at least in my opinion, but maybe it's just because it's live, or I don't know what it is, but all 3, I guess, quote-unquote new tracks, Leading Ladies, Music, and Fool's Paradise, all to me, especially Leading Ladies, and to your point in the beginning of that track, I almost thought it was like Steve Vai. I'm like, what the heck? I mean, this sounds like an instrumental, hard rock, maybe metal-ish track with a lot of experimentation and a lot of just way different than the Hibria sound that I do know and am familiar with. I think Music is actually a little bit better than track than you're giving it credit for. A solid song as well. Fool's Paradise is a really, really good song. I don't disagree. I think between the 3, that's really good. Even though, to me, if I had to stack rank them, I would say that Leading Ladies and Fool's Paradise are really close to each other, as far as my particular preference, with Music definitely being the weaker of the 3. I don't disagree with that. But what I found interesting about listening to the live tracks is, to me, and maybe because I recognize Tiger Punch especially, it just seems like all of those, I'm like, that's Hibria to me. My knowledge and my understanding of Hibria classic signature sound was in the live tracks. Whereas in the new stuff, if that's what it is, and again, we really don't know much about the album background-wise. I don't know if these were unreleased tracks they decided to release because, hey, it's our 20th anniversary, so here's a couple songs they have laying around, or if these are just stuff they just recently wrote. I don't know. But the reason why I think that'd be interesting to actually find out a little bit more of the backstory on that is because, to me, just my ears, they don't sound like Hibria songs. So if these are new tracks that are being written now, it'll be interesting to see what the new album, full album, will sound like if that's kind of the direction they're going in. Because to me, again, just my ear, they don't sound like the live tracks by any means. They definitely have a different sound to me. And again, maybe it's studio versus live mix. I have no idea, but it just, once the live stuff kicks in, I go, okay, well, I completely recognize that sound more so than I got off the studio stuff. But I don't disagree with you, Biff. I don't see a ton of value in this album other than if you're just a huge Hibria fan. And I guess I guess we got to say album loosely because it is an EP. But if you're a Hibria fan, Fool's Paradise alone and Leading Ladies are definitely songs you're going to want to check out. The live stuff, I guess what's cool about it, to your point, is 3 of the 4 live tracks have never been released on a live album before, so I guess you get your bang for your buck on that. But still, don't really get the huge draw of this album as far as something I need to rush out and buy by any means. But if you're a Hibria fan, you'll probably pick it up or at least check it out, stream it, whatever. If you're not a Hibria fan or, just kind of checking them out, it's worth a listen to, don't get me wrong, but definitely check out their older catalog of stuff too, because I think that's really where you get, arguably Hibria is the biggest band in Brazil, pretty much, being around for 20 years and having a very, very signature sound to what they do, great vocals, very blistering guitars, just really, really good stuff. And
outside of Angra. Angra is from Brazil as well.
That's true. Yeah, I totally forgot about Angra. Yeah, I guess, Angra and Hibria would be the 2 bands that you would definitely put up there as far as, and Sepultura, I guess, would be your biggest one. But definitely one of your bigger bands of Brazil there. Let me take back what I said originally. But again, if you're a Hibria fan, you'll probably check it out. If not, I don't think you need to rush out and get it as well. And strangely enough, this is weird. Our first 2 reviews of the show, 6 out of 10. Figure that out. That's exactly what I gave this EP as well.
Soldiers
of the Serbian army, keep your heads held high. Overrun, you fall one by one, for Belgrade and the fatherland. Soldiers, heroes, die for your land. Your lives are gonna raised by your command. Until your last dying breath. Until your last dying breath.
That was Last Dying Breath from Sabaton. But of course, you're a Sabaton fan already, so you know that was a Sabaton sound. And if you're not a Sabaton fan, shut off the show right now. Leave. I'm just kidding. But absolutely classic sound, and you know that Joachim singing within the first 5 seconds you hear it. Great album. One of the albums I was the most anticipated, looking forward to in the beginning of the year, knowing that, yep, I do a metal podcast, and yep, we're going to review that album. And huge fan, especially if you see these guys live. Oh my gosh, to hear them on the album, really good. To see them live and to see their interaction with the crowd and getting people into it, on an entirely different level. But this is also the last album that Torbjorn Englund wrote with and performed with Sabaton. After this, he's gone. In fact, he already is gone. Tommy Johansson, actually, this week was actually officially named the replacement for Sabaton. And, of course, he's known from Rainseed, and he's also known from Golden Resurrection. So an entirely different sound than Sabaton. So I can't wait to see how his involvement in the band may or may not change the sound. I hope it doesn't change too much, because Sabaton kicks ass. So I have a lot of thoughts and opinions on The Last Stand. But, Biv, what did you think, man?
Well, first of all, the first three tracks, Sparta, The Last Dying Breath, and Blood of Bannockburn, I believe it's pronounced, are all killer tracks. Now, this is not a concept album. However, this is an album where each track is inspired by a famous last battle of a given hero. So every single track has its own battle that inspired it. So take Sparta. That could have been a track straight off the movie 300. It could have been taken straight off of its soundtrack. I mean, it's just that. I guess the subject matter is just that pointed. So if you go and look, you'll find that every single one of these has a battle that it's tied to. I love the first three tracks. The one thing that we kind of joke about earlier, Jason, is that All Guns Blazing, the bonus track, normally bonus tracks are throwaway tracks. They're kind of like, yeah, we need CD sales in this country, so we're going to throw a bonus track onto that CD, and it's kind of like, who cares? But All Guns Blazing was awesome. I loved Shiroyama. I thought that was a great song, as well as The Last Stand. So even though I'm not an over-the-top Sabaton fan, I do appreciate their work. I thought this was a better than average work from them. And was it just me, or did you notice a lot more keyboards, or at least they're more prevalent on this CD than any other Sabaton?
Yeah,
piece of
you know
work?
what's
You
funny
notice
about
that?
it? No, I did. Again, we just played Last Dying Breath, which is a classic Sabaton song. To your point, Shiroyama sounds like an absolute Sabaton song as well. I mean, you couldn't mistake that for any other type of band or any type of sound that a band is known for. I mean, you play those, and if you have any familiarity with Sabaton, you go, that's Sabaton.
That's Sabaton.
So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it sounded just like that. But what I really found cool about this album, to your point, Biv, when you're talking about keys and just a different sound, there was a handful of tracks let's look at, like, The Last Battle, which is a song that pretty much sounds like unlike anything they've ever done before. A very 80s sound to it. And they closed the album out with that, which is really, really cool. I loved it. I thought it was a great song, but it didn't sound like anything they've done before. Also, Hill 3234 almost sounds like a very, like, Hellfire Club era Ed Guy track. I mean, not something that I would think Sabaton would put out. Great song. Double bass throughout, just a killer track, but not something I think Sabaton would do. So, when you listen to Heroes, for example, And by the way, to tie in what you said about, this album having a theme, but not really, it's not a concept album, but, Sabaton, of course, is known for, and if you don't have any familiarity with Sabaton, but you're simply a war buff, you will love Sabaton for the lyrical content alone, because every single song that they do is about war, about